Well, I tell you what, even though Nebraska is struggling, they got a big win over the weekend during the off week as Malachi Coleman, the Lincoln East Spartan,
go Spartans, baby,
commits to Nebraska. That's a big get for Nebraska.
It is. This is huge within the recruiting world. This is hugely interesting to me. Coleman's a kid who, from an athletic standpoint, he might be, and this gets thrown out there a lot.
Super freak.
He might be the best pure athlete I've ever laid my eyes on. I mean, his ability to run, jump, catch, do anything you ask him to do is mind-blowing. The guy is one of the most amazing athletes you'll ever find. Now, at the same time, while we're talking about him athletically, I do want to throw in the caveat that if you know the background on this kid, and I might be a little wrong on some of my facts. I believe came to the U.S. as a refugee, adopted, incredibly intelligent, and maybe the biggest heart you're ever going to find. This is a kid who had NIL deals and good NIL deals last year going into his senior year in high school, turns around and gives it all back to the community.
Wow.
I mean, it's just an insanely good kid. Now, it'll be interesting to me to see what happens with him going forward, because I'd like to think I'm pretty good occasionally at looking at a kid and saying, hey, here's where I see a guy maybe panning out a little bit better. And I look at Malachi Coleman and I think, if this guy wants to get to the NFL, the surest path that he has to the NFL is to put on 20, 25 pounds, maybe 30 pounds, and turn himself into a bigger, taller, faster Khalil Mack. Go be an edge guy. Go be another, the kid from Chad. Is it Chad Hutchinson, the Michigan kid? He's with Detroit now. I mean, somebody like that. Go be one of these 6'5", 245, 250-pound hybrid D-end outside linebackers, can drop back into coverage, can rush the quarterback, can play the run, can take on, I mean, basically it's another Lawrence Taylor, can take on an offensive tackle. He's about 6'4", 6'5". He runs a 10-4 100-yard dash. He's a track guy. But he also can long jump, high jump, triple jump, but just blazing speed. And kind of the thing that I'm hearing about him, I might be wrong on this, but what I'm hearing, he wants to run track in college too, which also means he doesn't want to gain 20, 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
He could blink and put on 30 pounds. I mean, the frame he's got is amazing. And so what I'm hearing is he wants to stay at 205, 210, 215 and be a wide receiver and then run track along with it. And the thing is, there is a lot of 6'5", really, really fast wide receivers out there.
You remember the last time you had this thought for somebody? Do you remember this? You know where I'm going to go with this?
Zach Potter.
Zach Potter. It was.
Yeah, and I remember I said on the TV show, this guy... And at the time I said, when Nebraska moves him to offensive tackle, because I was thinking of him as a tight end. When Nebraska moves Zach Potter to offensive tackle, he's going to become a top 5 draft pick. And I remember, and I love Dave. Zach's dad is
I was
awesome
with Dave and
dude.
Zach last night at Scareway Cancer.
And I remember Dave was he was a little testy. He was like, why is Rob begging on Zach saying he has to be an offensive lineman? And I remember you telling me, you're like, no, he's complimenting Zach, saying he can be a top 5 NFL draft pick. Well, sure enough, Zach goes to Nebraska and was a very good defensive end. He was an all Big 12 defensive end, which I'm one of those guys now that you look at the process a little bit. If you're a Power 5 kid at all, you're really damn good. If you're a Power 5 starter, and Zach was like a 3.5-year starting DN for Nebraska. You remember Sue's touchdown and run where he returned that interception against Colorado and smashed Dan Hawkins' kid into the turf. Yep. Zach's the one who batted the damn ball down for Sue to intercept. Zach's the one who made that play happen. He was an all-conference defensive end at Nebraska. He gets drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars day one. They're like, you're an offensive football player.
Now, he did play tight end.
Yeah, and he did. But I remember after the first mini camp, they move him to tight end. I worked out at the same gym that Dave did. Dave kind of wanders up to me and he's like, big deep breath. He's like, you were right.
So it's funny. During the offseason, that'd be one of our offseason podcasts. Yeah. We'll bring Zach in here, and let's just do a whole podcast with Zach about that whole discussion.
I'm kind of curious. Well, and it's one of those, I think guys like defense. What do you want to do? I want to play defense. Why? I get to hit somebody. But I look at Malachi Coleman, and I think in terms of where, as a football player, where are you going to be the better commodity for the NFL? And right now, there's three big commodities in the NFL. I mean, quarterback, obviously, but that's always going to exist. Once you get outside a quarterback, and those are great quarterbacks are few and far in between. Great offensive linemen. Malachi Coleman's not going to be an offensive lineman. Great edge guys. Another Bosa, Khalil Mack, Crosby with the Raiders. The guys like that are massive commodities to the NFL right now. Malachi Coleman 100% could be that guy. Great wide receivers are the third category of big-time commodities in the NFL. And when I look at great wide receivers, it's kind of tough. Those guys are a little few and far in between where you find, I mean, there's a ton of 6'5" guys who run a 4.1 40. There's very few 6'5" guys who run a 4.1 40 who can catch and maybe even more importantly, know the entire game of route running. That is an art and a science that not a lot of guys master. And I'm not sure I've seen Coleman master that yet because he hasn't played the position for that long.
So there's still a lot of upside when it comes
There's
to
a massive upside no matter which direction he goes. But I think the more immediate path to where he becomes that commodity in the NFL is on the defensive side.